Hey guys, so this is my July wrap-up, and this video is kind of tilted because my tripod's slightly broken, so just, you know, deal with it. Good. So I haven't done a wrap-up video in a while because I haven't been reading that much, like the past 2 months, but this month I got through 3 books, so that's pretty good. Good enough to do a wrap-up video, in my opinion. And the first book I'm going to talk about is Pretty Little Liars by Sarah Shepard. Little bit of shame. Little bit. I watched all of the show, I caught up completely, and was wondering why not read the books because they look like easy enough books, and so I bought them on my Kindle, or I bought the first one on my Kindle, and I read the whole thing in an afternoon. And if you guys didn't know, Pretty Little Liars is the story of a group of friends, and one of the girls goes missing, and her name is Allison, and a few years after, well, in the books, a few years after the disappearance of Allison, they find her body, and around that time they start getting texts from a mysterious A. The other girls do. They get a text from a mysterious A, and they think it's Allison at first, but then Allison's body's found. So who is A? And that's kind of what the books are about. They're basically all a bunch of teenage girls, and they're kind of liars, and they've all split ways after the disappearance of Allison. They've all lost contact, and so it's kind of a sad story at first because you're reading about these friends who are all very disconnected and trying to come back together for the sake of their friend, but are having, you know, problems doing so because they've all changed so much. And the interesting thing about the entire first book is that the entire first book is the pilot episode of the show. A whole book is one episode, which I guess kind of tells you the vastness of its plot. It was an enjoyable read, and the characters were fairly interesting, though I really only like reading from Aria Montgomery's perspective. Overall, I would give the first book in the Pretty Little Liars series 3 out of 5 stars. After reading that book, I decided it was easy enough, and I was kind of into the story and still really into the show, so I read the second one, and it is called Pretty Little Liars number 2, Flawless. Flawless is a continuation of the first book, and it is the story of pretty much the biggest dance that they have. It's kind of, in the show I think they turned it into Homecoming, but in the books, because they're all rich and live in like a fancy area of New England and a small town, it's called Foxy, and it's like this big dance ball thing, this banquet type thing where you have to pay a lot of money and you go to this dinner and dance and stuff, and that's kind of what the story was based around. And once again, the entire book was pretty much condensed into an episode of the show, and I'm really curious to see if this is how the story continues, because it's kind of crazy to me that they can fit an entire book worth of plot into one 43-minute episode of a show, and they do it pretty well, I think. I mean, there's a lot of things different in the book than the film. Or sorry, the television show. Very, very many differences. It's a completely different story, really. The basic things are the same, but like characters are completely different. It's kind of crazy. Overall, I think I gave Flawless 3 out of 5 stars as well, but in retrospect, I'd probably give it more of a 2 out of 5 stars. By this point, I was like, you know, maybe I should read something that isn't terrible. So I picked up Amelia Ann is Dead and Gone, which is right here, and this is Amelia Ann is Dead and Gone by Kat Rosenfield. And this book was recommended by John Green on his Twitter, and I always trust John's recommendations for the most part. There have been a couple that I read and didn't end up liking. Statistical probability of love at first sight. But I really liked Amelia Ann is Dead and Gone. The book is actually really kind of difficult to explain. It's the story of this girl who's graduating from high school and her life is about to change entirely, and around the same time a body is found, and they don't know who this body is. Obviously we know, her name is Amelia Ann, and it's kind of the story of how these two girls' lives were very similar but very different, and how their lives intertwined despite her being dead by the time the main character knows who she is. The core of the story is based around Becca and James and their relationship. Becca is the main character, James is her boyfriend, and it's a very relationship-based story, which I didn't really expect going into it because you look at this cover and you notice the title. It's not a very romantic sounding book, but it was very much about their relationship, and it was actually really, really good. Normally I don't like books that are just based around relationships. I'm not a huge fan of that, but this one was done so well. The writing was really, really eloquent and really lovely, and I found myself getting lost in these passages. The way that Rosenfield explains things is just really, really thorough, and I love it a lot. So does that car going by. I think some of the most interesting things about this book were the collective consciousness of the small town. It's based in a small town. You don't really know where, but it's somewhere on the East Coast, outside of Boston a few hours, I believe. But it's this small town and how everyone knows everyone and everyone knows everything, and so there are certain things that outsiders don't know and how important that is to the outsiders that they don't know these things. And yeah, this collective consciousness is really, really interesting, I found. Rosenfeld also does a lot of personification. She personifies a lot of emotions, which I found really, really compelling. She also personifies, you know, inanimate objects, and just the way she talks about things was so beautiful. I loved her writing. And one of the most important themes, I think, were the frivolity of rumors. You hear a lot of rumors, especially in a small town, lots and lots of rumors, and how they're all so different and changing, and how unimportant they really all are, especially when it comes to life and death situations or life-changing situations. Rumors are rumors, and I thought this book really beautifully reflected the frivolity of that. Overall, I gave A Million Is Dead and Gone 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I really recommend it to anyone. Also, it's a gorgeous book for your shelf, like you can see here. I'm sorry for this video being slightly haphazard. I'm very sick, as you can probably hear. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me know what you've been reading in the comments, or if you've read any of these books. Also, let me know if I should continue on with the Pretty Little Liars series, because I'm not entirely sure. We'll see, and I'll see you guys next time.